Staying on the air with just 24 hours to go until New Hampshire and just 2 candidates left standing, with Nikki Haley trying to pull an upset over former President Trump in the Republican race for the White House. We're live all across the state, hearing from voters and the candidates and asking the big question, is this the beginning of the end of this primary season? Also new tonight, deadly winter weather streaking across the nation, adding to the dangerous conditions that millions of Americans have dealt with for weeks. Are warmer temperatures finally on the way? Plus, just in the last couple of hours, we're hearing about a new proposal from Israel to try and free the hostages stuck inside Gaza, why our sources tell us a deal is still far away. Then, how a voting fraud scandal in Connecticut City is going national, with Donald Trump weighing in on this do-over drama that's a major mess. And America's big 3 car companies slamming the brakes on any new ads in this year's Super Bowl, even with Detroit's potential appearance. Why? Later in the show. Hi, I'm Erin McLaughlin, in for Hallie Jackson tonight, who is on assignment in New Hampshire, where in just a few hours, the first ballots will be cast in the state's GOP primary battle, a contest that could mean the end of any challenges to former President Donald Trump's attempt to become the Republican presidential nominee. It's now a 2-person race between the former president and Nikki Haley, after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, once considered a pretty formidable challenger to Mr. Trump, dropped out and quickly endorsed the former president. Heading into New Hampshire, the latest polls showing Mr. Trump holding his double-digit lead over Haley in their now head-to-head matchup. Haley still not giving up without a fight, holding 5 events today compared to Mr. Trump's 1, capping her night with a rally and holding out hope that the notoriously independent-thinking New Hampshireites will save her tomorrow. We've got team reporters spanned out across the state covering this. Vaughn Hilliard is in Laconia and Mark Murray is in Manchester. Vaughn, let's start with you. This is now the 2-person race Haley says she's always wanted. What needs to happen between now and Wednesday morning for her campaign to still be up and running?
The word independence, Aaron. This is a state, unlike in Iowa, where registered, unaffiliated independent voters can come and take part in the Republican primary. And what Nikki Haley needs is to surge that independent turnout, because right now, Donald Trump in polling is consistently dominating her by as much as 50 percentage points among registered Republican voters. And when you look at the independent voters, she is beating him. And so for her, there's potential of needing up to 40, 50% of the overall electorate being independents. That was what would make a good night for her. She also either needs to, frankly, win New Hampshire or come into a close second to make the case that she is a viable candidate moving forward. I want to let you listen to an exchange that Nikki Haley had with Hugh Hewitt on his radio show about the prospects of her in this primary. Take a listen.
We have always said that we're taking it one state at a time, but we have definite plans of going, right into South Carolina and right into Super Tuesday. We've only had 1 state vote so far, and I think if you look, there were, 56,000 people in a state of 3 million voted for Donald Trump. That's by no means a coronation.
The next state up is going to be Nevada, but they have a caucus there, and actually Nikki Haley will not actually be up for consideration in that caucus, so we can put that in the win column for Trump. But then the next big state is going to be February 23rd, which is her home state of South Carolina. And you just heard Nikki Haley committing not to only lasting for the next month through South Carolina, but also Super Tuesday, which lands on March 5th.
Now, Mark, over to you. Haley saying this is now the 2-person race she's been calling for, but with both DeSantis and his voters largely backing Mr. Trump, does going one-on-one actually benefit her at all?
Yeah, we got our first taste of a poll without Ron DeSantis, and this actually came from the Boston Globe, NBC 10, and Suffolk University. And the poll actually found Donald Trump holding on to his 19-point lead over Nikki Haley, the same 19-point lead he had the day before with Ron DeSantis in the race. And Aaron, other polling has shown that a lot of Ron DeSantis' second choice goes 2-to-1 for Donald Trump over Nikki Haley. And so best case for Nikki Haley is that, that Ron DeSantis being out of the race doesn't really change much. Worst case scenario for her is that actually it ends up helping Donald Trump's margins potentially tomorrow night.
Now, Vaughn, you also have the Trump rally where you are in just a couple of hours, featuring the former president as well as 3 of his former opponents who have now endorsed him. How important is sending a message of party unity right now for Mr. Trump?
Right, this is him making an effort to bring the Republican Party together, and he is urging folks to begin to shift their sights and their resources to the general election and taking on Joe Biden. That's why it was notable that he had Tim Scott, Doug Burgum, and Vivek Ramaswamy, all former Republican presidential rivals, on the campaign stage with him. And last night here in New Hampshire, he said that he was appreciated the gracious endorsement, was his words, of Ron DeSantis, and was welcoming him back into the fold. And I was talking to folks here in line waiting to get in to see Trump here today, and they were making it clear that the Republican primary should be over, that the message has been sent loud and clear to all the candidates but Nikki Haley, of course. This is the one-on-one race that Nikki Haley was looking for. And when you look at moderate voters across the state of New Hampshire, you see them favoring Nikki Haley over Donald Trump by just a small margin here. But there's definitely a wing of this Republican Party, as well as the independents, that wants a candidate that is not Donald Trump. And it's an argument we have heard Nikki Haley make as to why she should be the general election nominee against Joe Biden, for fear that, like we saw in 2020, that he alienates too many conservatives who are opposed to his tactic of politics, and too many independents, and it cost Republicans the White House in 2020.
Now, Mark, as Vaughn has pointed out, we know that the biggest voting bloc of all in New Hampshire are the so-called undeclared independent voters. How much do you think she can rely on them for a good showing tomorrow night?
Yeah, this is a really important base of her, and if she's going to end up having a good night, she's going to end up relying on these undeclared independent voters. Polls shown her with a double-digit lead among independents. A recent St. Anselm College poll had her leading among independent undeclared voters by 15 percentage points. That same Boston Globe Suffolk poll that came out today had her ahead about 20 points. But the challenge that she ends up having is that despite those leads, Donald Trump's lead with registered Republicans is even larger, some 40 to 50 percentage points. And so Nikki Haley's success tomorrow is win really big among independents and also cut down Donald Trump's lead among registered Republicans, who still slightly outnumber independents potentially in tomorrow night's electorate.
Now, Vaughn, on the Democratic side, you also have the New Hampshire AG investigating a fake robocall impersonating President Trump. Who put that out, and what kind of impact were they trying to have? What can you tell us?
At this hour, Aaron, we do not know who put this robocall out, and we don't know all of whom it was directly targeting, but it was an AI-generated voice of Joe Biden telling Democrats to not show up and partake in the Democratic primary tomorrow. Our colleagues Alex Seitzwald and Mike Memley articulate that there are serious questions among Democratic officials in the state and concern about the impact that it could have in future similar situations, especially come November of 2024. I want to let you listen to part of that robocall.
We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
We have seen AI-generated videos floating around on social media over the course of the last year, but this is potentially the most concerning actual effort, AI-generated effort. Again, the Attorney General here in New Hampshire said that they are investigating it, but it was a clear manipulation and not actually Joe Biden making those phone calls. But the concern is especially in states that actually matter come the general election here, and the implications that a similar type of scenarios could have on the election as a whole.
Mark Murray and Vaughn Hilliard, thank you. Well, tonight, a new storm system moving east brings freezing rain and ice to millions. It follows this deadly streak of winter weather, leaving 75 people dead. We're looking live at Houston right now. Gray skies as Texas up to the Midwest feeling this storm right now. Snow and ice piling up on roads, making it really dangerous. Just look at this fire truck in Missouri sliding and spinning out of control down a street. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Then in Tennessee, the fire department pulled up a truck stuck on the edge of a 200-foot cliff. Look at that. The driver ran off the road and couldn't take his foot off the brake without the car sliding down further. He's safe now. And out west, heavy rain drenching Southern California creates some serious flooding. This is a major highway in San Diego covered in water. And there's some good news at the end of this weather tunnel. Warmer weather is on the way. Today is really the last day of this Arctic blast. Then temperatures go in the opposite direction, soaring above average. Let's bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns. Now, Bill, let's start right there. There's this warm up coming for the country, but a lot of places also have so much snow piled up. Are there any flooding concerns, or is this just good news that the weather's getting warmer?
Well, Aaron, after about, we had like 3-4 weeks of winter, we did pile up some snow, but we didn't have so much on the ground that this quick January thaw is going to cause a lot of problems at the rivers. I don't really expect any runoff problems from this January thaw, but it does feel warm. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's like, hey, this is great, finally back to like almost spring-like conditions, and it took 24 hours in some cases. So this is our map that shows us the 24-hour temperature change. So an example, like Louisville, it's 46 degrees right now. Yesterday, it was 26. They've warmed up 20 degrees from this time yesterday, and that's the case. Everyone here on this map has warmed up significantly from yesterday east of the Rockies, and that's where all the bitter cold air was. So what's it look like tomorrow? Well, we continue this. Pretty mild out there in many spots. The trouble spots is going to be in Michigan and areas of, especially when we get into western New York and Pennsylvania, still in the 30s, so I'll talk about that coming up. But then as we head into Wednesday, that warm-up even gets hotter. I mean, we're talking 66 in Raleigh, 73 in Charleston. People are going to be wearing shorts again, and that warm weather will last right through the end of the week into the weekend. Raleigh, 73, 73. New York into the mid-50s. So definitely, Aaron, a spring-like feel for so many areas where people didn't even want to leave their homes this weekend.
Well, let's talk about this next storm rolling in. What can we expect?
Yeah, we already have winter weather advisories up for a good section of the northern Ohio Valley, southern Great Lakes, Midwest, and portions of Pennsylvania and New York, about 50 million people. This is not a big snow ordeal. We're actually not expecting a lot of snow. Freezing rain will be the biggest problem. That's what happens when you have cold air at the ground, that warm air is trying to come in over the top of it, and just a little bit of precipitation, just makes the sidewalks, a little graze of ice on it. So the snowfall forecast, this is 1 inch. That's it. Detroit northwards, upstate New York, and mountainous areas of Vermont and Massachusetts. It's not the snow I'm concerned with. It's the ice. So here's the ice forecast over the next 2 days. When you get up to the blue, a quarter inch, that's when you can start getting power outages. Thankfully, this storm is not like that. This lighter pink here, this is about 1/10 of an inch. So Chicago, northern Indiana, along the border here with Michigan, this is the area where we'll have the greatest significant ice accumulation. And that's likely where schools will probably be canceled as we go throughout tomorrow and possibly even lasting into Wednesday. And some of this will try to move into areas of Pennsylvania and upstate New York, too. So, again, not a huge storm, but it only takes a little bit of ice to make things really treacherous.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Well, we're just learning Israel is proposing a 2-month pause in fighting inside Gaza in exchange for the more than 100+ hostages still in Gaza to get out. An Israeli government official tells NBC News whether or not Hamas will agree isn't clear yet because we're also hearing these negotiations are still at an impasse over Hamas's demand for a permanent ceasefire. A diplomat with knowledge of the talks tells NBC News. And it comes as we're seeing this stunning video of families of some of those hostages storming the Israeli parliament, demanding the government do more to get their loved ones out. More than 3 months into this war. Let's bring in Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Now, Matt, what more do we know about this proposal?
Yeah, well, this is a very interesting deal because it would be the longest sustained relative peace that the Gaza Strip has seen ever since October 7th, if it goes through, and that's entirely unclear. But it looks like the parameters of this deal, if it's approved by Hamas, would be something like a 2-month pause. It would be in 2 shifts that hostages would be released, and there would be negotiations over the identities of the hostages and which Palestinian prisoners would be released. But as you mentioned, Aaron, it's still, it doesn't seem as though Hamas would necessarily agree to this because they're not proposing a permanent ceasefire. And it was clear from Axios' reporting and from our own, and Axios was the one who broke this story, that Hamas is only going to agree to a permanent ceasefire, but that this proposal does not include that, and it does not include the full release of all, according to Axios, the 6,000 Palestinians who are currently in Israeli jails. So while this is a major step forward for something like a ceasefire, which is what so many people around the world are calling for, including many national governments, then this doesn't necessarily, this could be a sign, a big indication that Israel is willing to take a bigger step towards some kind of negotiated peace. Aaron.
Yeah, and how long has this latest round of negotiations been going on for, Matt?
Well, this has been going on for months and months and months, but I should tell you actually that NBC News just heard from a Hamas official tonight that they won't accept any proposal that doesn't include a full ceasefire. So we have something like a light refusal already, just as we've been seeing this Axios reporting. But this negotiations have been going on for a long, long time, ever since really, shortly after this event on October 7th, when Hamas launched that vicious terrorist attack into Israel. These negotiations have been managed by Qatar and the Egyptians as intermediaries with Hamas because, of course, Israel doesn't speak directly to them. But again, it doesn't necessarily look like, at least for our indications right now, that this deal will ever take hold because they don't include that crucial ingredient, a permanent ceasefire.
Yeah, a 2-month pause is a long way off from a permanent ceasefire. Matt Bradley, thanks so much. Well, now some breaking news just into us. The United States and British militaries are hitting the Houthis with even more strikes in Yemen, according to defense officials. Of course, in the response to the dozens of attacks the rebel group is launching on ships in the Red Sea since November. We're also learning President Biden and UK Prime Minister Sunak talked on the phone in just the last couple of hours about those ongoing attacks. Let's go right to Courtney Cubie, who's following all of this for us from the Pentagon. Courtney, what more do we know about these new strikes?
We don't know a whole lot because they literally just happened, Aaron. So, I mean, the aircraft just completed their mission only moments ago. Now, what's key here to remember is this was a bilateral, so U.S. and British military in a series of pre-planned strikes. So this is similar to what we saw back on January 11th, when the U.S. military and the British military launched a whole series of strikes against more than 60 targets in Yemen, Houthi targets, by air, by sea. It was a combination of manned airstrikes and missiles that were fired from military ships off the coast of Yemen. Now, in that case, they lobbed more than 150 precision-guided missiles and bombs at Houthi targets. We do expect this to be slightly scaled back from that, but we're still waiting for some final numbers here, including how many targets they went after. But we do expect similar types of targets to what we saw then. So anti-ship ballistic missile sites, things that would potentially be used to target commercial and military ships in the Red Sea. And the real goal of these strikes is twofold. Number one, to try to degrade the Houthis' military capabilities so they simply cannot carry out the amount of strikes that we've seen over the last couple of months from them, but also to try to deter them from continuing this campaign of threatening and at times attacking ships in the Red Sea. Aaron, it's having a real impact on the global economy, with a number of major shipping companies rerouting their ships all the way around southern Africa. That adds time, it adds money to consumers, and there is a serious threat from these Houthi missiles and one-way attack drones that we've seen them launching off of over the last several weeks, Aaron.
And Courtney, there are some real questions about the effectiveness of these strikes. And of course, this comes as we're also learning more about the 2 Navy SEALs confirmed dead after they went overboard as part of a search mission for Iranian missiles bound for the Houthis. Now, walk us through that.
Yeah, it's a really tragic story. So it was on January 11th, actually the same day of the first major strikes between the U.S. and the British military on the Houthi rebels. These Navy SEALs who we see here on screen, they were part of a small SEAL team that was about to board a small dhow. That's a ship that was believed to be carrying illicit weapons from Iran to the Houthi rebels. Now, it was nighttime. The seas were pretty rough at the time. One of those SEALs fell in. The other one jumped in to save his buddy. They were missing for about 10 days before, over the weekend, the U.S. military officially declaring them deceased. Just today, we learned their names, a little bit more about them. They were both West Coast-based SEALs, part of the Naval Special Warfare Group 1. Really tragic story. It's now moved from a rescue mission to a recovery, with the still continued hope that they'll be able to recover these 2 missing sailors, now declared deceased. But it all does tie back to what we were talking about earlier, and in that this was the first interdiction by the U.S. military of, in this case, it was missile parts, components for missiles that the Houthis have been using to target these ships in the Red Sea. The U.S. military grabbing one of these boats. They took the crew into detention. They confiscated the weapons on board. They sunk that dhow, that small boat. But sadly, these 2 Navy SEALs were lost in the process, Aaron.
Oh, tragic. Courtney, thank you. Now, coming up, why the FAA says another Boeing plane should get inspections, how that could impact airline operations. Plus, new questions about what fans can and cannot do after this scary scene at a college basketball game. Stay with us. More bad news for Boeing as the FAA recommends inspections on one of its plane models similar to the one where the door plug blew out in midair earlier this month. This model, called the 737-900ER, is older than the 737 MAX 9, which had the blowout incident. But the FAA says the two have the same door plug design. And it's important to note, FAA isn't saying these planes need to be grounded, rather just telling airlines to take an extra look to make sure the door is properly secured as an added layer of safety. Boeing, in a statement, says, quote, "We fully support the FAA and our customers in this action." Now, let's bring in our Liz Kreutz for more. Liz, will this new inspection affect airline operations, and is there a real concern that something's also wrong with this fleet?
Yeah, Aaron, good news for travelers that know this inspection is not going to most likely have any impact on air travel. This is really, it seems to be out of an abundance of caution that the FAA is asking for this. In fact, they are saying that it's an added layer of security because, as you mentioned, they have that same door plug design. In fact, the FAA does make a point to say that there have been no known problems with this plane. There's 11 million hours of operation with this plane, 3.9 million flight cycles. And we also know from a source familiar with the matter that there are about 380 of these planes in service worldwide. It's United, Delta, and Alaska Airlines that use them domestically. All 3 of those airlines have said that they had already begun inspections preemptively. United said they started a proactive inspections of these planes earlier this week. No disruptions to their customers. Delta saying the same thing. And Alaska Airlines also says, out of an abundance of caution, we began inspecting these aircraft several days ago, and they'll continue that without any disruptions to their operations, Aaron.
Okay, so let's talk about the MAX 9 investigation. Where does that stand? We still have about 170 of those planes grounded. Is that right?
Yeah, Aaron. So that is still underway. Those planes still grounded. Those are planes that are used by Alaska Airlines and United Airlines here in the U.S. Other airlines globally do use them. And Alaska Airlines saying still about 110 to 150 flights, are impacted right now every single day because these planes continue to be grounded. That investigation continues, Aaron.
All right, we'll have to see what comes out of that. Liz, thanks so much. Now to Georgia, where a judge is unsealing the divorce file involving one of the special prosecutors investigating former President Trump for election interference. We broke down why this is such a huge deal last week, and that's because the district attorney in Fulton County, Willis, is accused of having an inappropriate romantic relationship with that prosecutor, Nathan Wade. One of Mr. Trump's co-defendants, Michael Roman, accuses Wade of using some money he got from the DA's office to go on trips. We should note, so far, there's no direct evidence of wrongdoing here. But in court, a lawyer for Jocelyn Wade accused Willis of being the, quote, alleged paramour of her client's husband and says her job as DA shouldn't matter. Now, Blaine Alexander is in Marietta, Georgia, joining us now. Blaine, you caught up with Jocelyn Wade's lawyer after the hearing, and you asked her about the allegation Willis is making that this is harassment. How did she respond?
Well, Aaron, there are certainly a lot of pieces here, so let me try and string them all together, starting with that claim that Willis is saying, she filed a motion of her own last week, basically pushing back, saying that she shouldn't have to testify in the divorce proceedings involving Nathan Wade and his estranged wife, saying that she doesn't have any additional information or unique information that she can offer to this case, and then, yes, saying that this was an attempt to harass her or embarrass her because of her position. I asked Andrea Hastings about that. She's the attorney for Jocelyn Wade. Here's what she had to say. Take a look.
wouldn't matter who she is and what position she holds. If she's having an affair with my client's husband and he's spending my client's money on that relationship, I'm going to find out about it. And it has nothing to do, in my view, with her being the district attorney of Fulton County.
Now, a couple of things I want to note here, Aaron, while we're talking about this. Fani Willis has not directly responded to these allegations, though she appears to have indirectly addressed them during an MLK Day speech. But we know that her office has said that she does plan to respond in a written court filing by February 2nd. That's the date that the judge has set for that deadline for her to respond. Aaron.
Now, at the same time, Willis wants to avoid being deposed in Wade's divorce case. The judge is holding off on making that happen for now. What other information does the judge want?
So initially, she had been called to go into a deposition tomorrow. That's not happening. She doesn't have to testify tomorrow. Basically, the judge said that he's going to wait until there is another hearing during which Nathan Wade would likely have to come forward and testify. The judge says at that point, he would kind of get to hear from himself what sort of information Nathan Wade has, what he's able to share with the court. That would give him the basis to decide whether or not Fani Willis's testimony is actually necessary. He said today he just doesn't have enough information to make that ruling. He's going to wait until after he gets more evidence in the form of Wade testifying.
Blaine Alexander, thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the Supreme Court says it's going to hear Oklahoma death row inmate Richard Glossop's appeal. He was convicted of arranging the murder of his boss back in 1997. He says he's innocent, and the state's AG says he didn't get a fair trial. The Supreme Court's expected to consider his case in its next term, which starts in October. Number 2, at least 2 people are dead and tens of thousands are without electricity as winter storm Isha tears through Britain and Ireland. It's bringing heavy rain and winds higher than 100 miles an hour, tossing trees into roads and disrupting travel. Hundreds of trains were canceled, and the region's bracing for another storm on the way this week. Number 3, today Elon Musk visited World War II death camp Auschwitz-Birkenau, then spoke at a conference on anti-Semitism, where he defended his social media platform X, saying it's allowing free speech, while critics say it's enabling anti-Semitism. Number 4, around 30,000 California State University staff went on strike today for higher pay. Cal State's the largest public university system in the country and has 23 campuses. The new semester is starting today, but many classes could get canceled, and the strike's supposed to last all week. The union says Cal State has the money, while university officials say the salary demands aren't feasible. And number 5, 20-year-old amateur golfer Nick Dunlap just became a PGA Tour champion, but can't get the prize money. More than $1.5 million because of his amateur status. Instead, the PGA Tour says the runner-up will get that money. Dunlap's the youngest amateur to win since 1910. We're hearing from the Big Ten today after that scary scene out of Ohio where the top college basketball player in the country basically gets run over by a fan running onto the court. You can see right here, just seconds after Ohio State's surprising upset over number 2 Iowa, a fan crashes into Caitlin Clark. She falls to the ground, and after that, with members of her team all surrounding her, Clark's the best player in the Division I college hoops, averaging nearly 32 points a game. Fortunately, she says she's all right, saying she was blindsided and it was kind of scary, adding, though, that she has no problem with the fans rushing the court, but it's raising new questions about how that's even allowed to happen. Maura Barrett joins me now. Now, Clark says that she's okay with this. She's okay with fans rushing on court, but I imagine there's a lot of other folks who think otherwise.
Yeah, the coaches spoke out after this, after Clark gave her own statement, said she was okay. But it's kind of understandable when you're watching that video that there's concern from the coaches, because it doesn't look like the fan was necessarily intentional about knocking over Caitlin, but clearly she fell to the ground, was there for a while. There's that potential for injury. The Iowa State coach released a statement saying, Coach Bluter say, you know, it's unfortunate the game ended that way and Caitlin gets taken out on the floor, gets some inappropriate words yelled at her by fans, by students. That should just not happen. It should not happen. Our players should be safe. They should be able to walk off the floor. That's very disappointing. Now, mind you, Clark had just scored 45 points in the game, so Bluter expressed disappointment over the fact that she was knocked over and then harassed verbally immediately after that. Ohio State officials also expressing apologies. Kevin McGuff, the state women's basketball coach, said that Clark had such a spectacular performance today. She's a great player, and that should never happen. And so I feel really badly about it. Hopefully it doesn't affect her moving forward, but that is extremely unfortunate. Clark also said that the Ohio State athletic director approached her after the game in the locker room, apologized. She said she was super grateful for that. But it's important to note there was 18,000 people watching this game. That's the most ever in Ohio State history. And so it's safe to understand and understandable why, you'd want to be concerned about possibly thousands of people, all access to the court there.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, let's talk about the conferences. How have the conferences addressed court storming?
Well, this is something that you see a lot in sports, college sports. I mean, it's something that fans, understandably, get excited. They want to celebrate with their team. They go out on the court. But obviously, like we saw, that presents potential danger. And so the Big Ten has put in a system into place where they say that they need to have a security provided by the opposing team. They say if adequate security is not provided, there's a process in place that begins with a private reprimand for the first offense, public reprimand for the second offense, and the discretion to implement a fine plus additional penalties for a third offense. Now, the SEC, on the other hand, one of the other college conferences, goes a step further. They're actually issuing monetary fines. They'll put against about $100,000 for the first offense, $250,000 for the second, $500,000 for the third. And they also have a rule about security, establishing a safe zone for their team so team members can get back to their locker room safely. They also advise that teams forego that post-game handshake that's so typical in sports and actually get back to the locker room because they're really looking out for safety. And so this is just yet another thing that we're seeing added to implement safety across college sports, Erin.
Wow, pretty incredible. Maura Barrett, thank you. Well, when we come back, why New Hampshire has such an outsized impact on presidential politics, that's our breakdown tonight. Plus, something fishy about found hidden in suitcases at a New York airport. We're not talking about that shrimp, how border officers made this weird discovery. Let's get back to New Hampshire, where in just about 24 hours, polls will close on what could be the beginning of the end of the Republican primary. But why is a state that's in the bottom 10 in population so important to picking the president? Hallie joins me now from Salem, New Hampshire. Hallie?
Hey, Erin, it's great to see you, especially out here on the campaign trail from New Hampshire. You can tell it is very loud. It is very crowded. We're at one of Nikki Haley's final events before voting begins tomorrow at this first-in-the-nation primary contest. That's what they call it, because unlike Iowa, it is not a caucus. People are actually voting. It's a little bit more of a traditional process like we'd expect to see. Earlier today, we were out at an event with Donald Trump Jr., of course, the son of the other candidate in this race, as he was making the pitch, making the closing argument as to why people in New Hampshire should come out, turn out, and vote for his dad. We've talked about the politics in this show already. We're going to talk about the politics again coming up in just a little bit. But what about the process? What does this actually look like? How does it work? Well, we've got you covered in the breakdown. Check it out.
We had the big day.
For New Hampshire, a proud presidential primary tradition.
First in the nation.
First in the nation.
First in the nation.
First in the nation. First in the nation.
The state's voted first for more than a century now. So committed, they literally made it law that their primary be at least 7 days before anyone else's. It's a different animal than Iowa with its caucus system. New Hampshire is more like the voting you're used to, with polls opening early and voters lining up all day. It's a preview of what November will look like. The state has 22 delegates up for grabs out of a possible 2,400 across the country. Other states have a lot more. So why is New Hampshire such a big deal for the candidates?
New Hampshire historically has been that state that introduces candidates to the rest of the nation. New Hampshire voters will say, hey, look at this person. Take a look and see for yourself.
Experts point out it's all about momentum. A win here can propel a candidate in states to come, like the ones that vote on Super Tuesday. Just look at the historical record. Of the 4 Republicans who've won the presidency in the last 50 years, 3 won New Hampshire. One of them,
Donald Trump, who lost Iowa in 2016 but won here in this state, catapulting him to the eventual nomination. Polls now show him ahead of his nearest rival, Nikki Haley, by double digits in most cases, but it appears to be his weakest early state. Haley hoping she can use that to her advantage in a state she's invested her time and money in. She's logged nearly 3 times as many days visiting New Hampshire as Mr. Trump. Unlike Iowa, New Hampshire has fewer evangelicals, more moderates, more suburban and young voters.
On paper, Nikki Haley should be very appealing to those particular voters. But if she's not, like if in bedroom, suburban communities with lots of commuters here in the southern tier of New Hampshire, if Trump is winning those towns, it's going to be a very big night for him.
And then there are the independents, also called undeclared voters, who outnumber both Democrats and Republicans here. They're allowed to vote in either the Democratic or Republican primary. And at the moment, polling shows they favor Haley over Mr. Trump.
So, Aaron, that is a little bit of an explanation as to what will happen, not tonight, of course, but tomorrow night when I will see you probably live from a polling location. The polls will be open all day tomorrow in and around, obviously in New Hampshire. They actually even open up starting at midnight tonight. One tiny little town called Dixville Notch that goes right at the stroke of midnight. So we'll have a handful of vote in, and I do mean a literal handful at that point. As for the Democrats, if you're wondering, and again, we're out covering the Republicans because that is where the competitive primary race is right now. As for Democrats, keep in mind that because the Democratic National Committee and the Democrats moved around which states vote early, which states go first, New Hampshire was not in that mix, so delegates essentially don't get named to the National Convention over the summer. That said, you are seeing still a write-in campaign for President Biden. You've seen Dean Phillips, for example, Marianne Williamson out here as well. So lots to cover here in what they call the Granite State, Aaron, where we will be, of course, all night. Aaron, back to you.
Hallie Jackson, thank you. The Biden administration today announcing new steps to help Americans get contraceptive and abortion access under emergency care law, including expanded coverage of FDA-approved contraceptives at no cost under the Affordable Care Act for millions of women nationwide and access to emergency abortions. It comes on the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade, with the administration sharpening its message on abortion ahead of the election. And Vice President Harris in Wisconsin today launching a national tour focused on protecting access to reproductive care. The Biden campaign says it will put reproductive freedom front and center over the next 10 months, tying abortion bans to former President Trump's ownership of the fall of Roe. Yamiche Alcindor is joining us now.
Vice President Harris came to deep red Waukesha County, Wisconsin, and talked about the need to push for abortion access. Take a listen.
In the last 19 months, in states across our nation, extremists have proposed and passed laws that criminalize doctors and punish women. Laws that threaten doctors and nurses with prison time, even for life, simply for providing health care.
The vice president also said that Democrats need to continue to build on the momentum and push for abortion access. She said that this is really a health care crisis for women, that their lives are in danger. She also went after former President Trump, saying that he had really created this, what she called a dangerous situation. I also want to tell you that I talked to a woman who had an abortion in 2017. She said she felt forced into that decision because her baby had a fatal defect. And she really, in some ways, is still grieving that loss. Take a listen to what she told me.
I'd like lawmakers to know that every situation is nuanced and you cannot, this is not a black and white situation or an black and white issue. We can't make just sweeping laws.
Now, she is now a mother of 2 and said that if she hadn't been able to have that abortion, she wouldn't have been able to have her second child. Aaron?
Yamiche Alcindor, thank you for that reporting. NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we like to call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau, 3 crew members are dead after their medical helicopter crashed in Oklahoma. They were returning to base after transporting a patient when it happened, according to officials. No word yet on what caused the crash, but the NTSB is investigating. And out of our Northeast Bureau, officials say a man was arrested at JFK Airport for allegedly smuggling 40 pounds of cocaine inside frozen shrimp. Officers discovered the shrimp during a security check and immediately knew something was fishy when they found dozens of bags full of white powder. The suspect says he'd been paid a few $1,000s to bring the drugs from Guyana to the United States. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. And out of our Western Bureau, police in California arrested a woman for allegedly stealing 65 of those viral Stanley cups worth almost $2,500. Officers found the suspect after a store reported she walked out with a shopping cart full of the tumblers without paying for them. The woman was arrested for grand theft. And coming up, election deja vu in one Connecticut city tomorrow. Why people are voting in a mayoral race for the third time in 4 months. A voting scandal in one New England city getting nationwide attention tonight. We're talking about the race for mayor in Bridgeport, Connecticut, a city of like 150,000 people. Take a look at this video, allegedly showing people stuffing ballot drop boxes ahead of the Democratic primary back in September. A judge decided there was enough evidence to order a do-over of this race even after the general election in November. The man who won that race has been mayor on and off for decades and has a controversial history in this city. Joe Ganim served 5 terms as mayor before being convicted of corruption charges. He went to federal prison for 7 years and has been elected twice more since being released. The primary for what could be his 8th term is tomorrow. This contest's gotten the attention of former President Donald Trump, who, of course, falsely claimed there was widespread election fraud of which there is no evidence. He posted that it's a tiny part of what's happening in our country. Now, Jane Tim joins me now. Jane, I have so many questions. Election fraud is rare and not like a widespread issue. What are the candidates saying about all of this?
You know, for every rule, there is an exception, and Bridgeport, Connecticut appears to maybe be that exception, where you are seeing evidence of sort of significant fraud that was enough that a judge said that we have to redo a primary election. And if this primary is redone and the outcome changes, you will actually have to redo a general election after that. Now, the candidates, Joe Ganim has also accused his rival of fraud. There's a lot of hate going back and forth. But what we understand from court testimony and interviews with reporters is that there are people that went in and out of low-income housing, encouraged people to apply for absentee ballots, and then helped them return it. Connecticut has very strict rules on who can help somebody vote absentee by mail. And that's where, while these may not be illegal voters, their ballots may have been cast in violation of the law. So that's why we've ended up with this redo. Voter fraud allegations have dogged Bridgeport, Connecticut for years. So this is something voters, I think, are pretty fed up with. Let's take a listen to something that our Connecticut colleagues' conversations with voters.
I think it's a necessity, and, you know, we need to find out who the real winner is in Bridgeport.
I think things need to be changed because the city's out of character right now.
Now, we'll find out tomorrow whether or not this race, which was decided by hundreds of votes, hundreds of absentee ballots, will be decided in the same way, or if we go to a general election redo after this primary election redo.
And let's talk potential penalties. Are there any for anyone involved in the alleged ballot stuffing?
You know, this is currently is a state investigation going on. And once the results of that are had, it can be referred to the Attorney General's office. There's a 2019 primary with this same Mayor Ganim that has been referred to the Attorney General's office. That investigation is still ongoing. State officials say that this investigation will go quicker. I think there is an enormous amount of pressure on them to get to the bottom of this. But election redos are an incredibly extraordinary recourse. I will say that the election experts point to the fact that this was caught, that, you know what I mean, this kind of fraud, while it does happen in occasional instances, it gets caught because it's too obvious to be missed.
And what are election experts saying about this race and other recent elections that have been redone?
You know, election readers are something I'm watching because it is so extraordinary, Aaron. But you've seen a handful of them in the recent months, and usually it's in the kind of race, like a local race, where the deciding vote is maybe 2 or 3 people have voted. But as more elections are litigated, more people go to court, more people cry fraud, whether it is baseless or founded. You're going to see more calls for this, and whether or not the courts decide that they are merited is really going to help, is going to decide a lot of things based on how people trust our elections and whether or not we have to do this again.
Jane, thank you. That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
We are coming on the air tonight with a lot of news from the campaign trail just before some of those first votes are set to be cast right here, not just in Salem where I am tonight, but all around this state at what is a key time for Nikki Haley, trying to pull an upset now over former President Trump in this Republican primary field. We're live all across the state hearing from the candidates with some of our team's exclusive one-on-ones and asking the big question, could this be the beginning of the end of this primary season? Also new tonight, deadly winter weather streaking across the country, adding to the dangerous conditions for millions of Americans. So are warmer temperatures finally coming? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Then, in just the last couple of hours, we're learning about a new proposal from Israel to try to free the hostages stuck inside Gaza. Why our sources are telling us a deal is still far away. Plus, new details out of Georgia on the divorce drama that could upend the election interference case against Mr. Trump. Why the Fulton County DA may have to answer questions in that messy case involving her top prosecutor. And some new reaction tonight after that collision in Ohio with a fan running into the country's top college basketball player. What Caitlin Clark and her coach are saying now, coming up a little later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and it is good to be with you here live from Salem, New Hampshire, where we are just minutes away from former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, set to take the stage behind me there. It's packed. It's a full house here tonight, as it has been for multiple events throughout the day, as we are in the lead up now to the New Hampshire primary, with voting set to begin just about, 12, 13, 14 hours from now. In one town, it's actually going to be even sooner. That's the town of Dixville Notch. We also have seen former President Trump with his surrogates here in the state, including his own son, Donald Trump Jr., trying to make the case, this last-minute case now to voters in New Hampshire, that they need to get behind his father, essentially, in what is now, as you know, a 2-person race. That's after that dramatic dropout from current Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He suspended his campaign, and as he did so, he's endorsing former President Trump as they all head into New Hampshire. So where does the latest polling stand? Mr. Trump with a 19-point lead, according to the latest survey, with DeSantis out of the race over Nikki Haley. She is hoping for a very strong showing here, essentially looking ahead already to her home state of South Carolina to get some wind at her back, to get some momentum going, holding 5 events here in this state. That's compared to 1 later on tonight from former President Trump, capping out her night with the rally and then hoping that the notoriously independent-minded New Hampshireites could save her campaign tomorrow. I want to bring in 2 of my colleagues who are also fanning out on the campaign trail, Vaughn Hilliard and Mark Murray, our political editor. Vaughn, let me start with you here because we are heading into now a pretty crucial 24 hours for these candidates. I heard from Donald Trump Jr. today. There was a little sort of back and forth and a gaggle, and he was talking about how his father hopes to put this race essentially away as quickly as possible, that the Republican Party unite behind him. Nikki Haley is making the case in an exclusive one-on-one with our own Allie Vitale that this is not a coronation, that people are supposed to have choices, and that's what this is all about here in New Hampshire. Vaughn, talk us through what you're seeing and hearing.
Right. The biggest and most difficult reality for Nikki Haley is if New Hampshire voters, potentially a very favorable state when you look at the map and the Republican races that are to come after New Hampshire, this may be the most favorable state to her. And so she needs to have either a defining win or a very close second to make the case that she is a true viable candidate against Donald Trump. At the same time, this is the two-person race that those opposed to Donald Trump ascending to the Republican nomination for a third time have been looking for, a two-person Republican primary race. And it is early enough where there is only one state, Iowa, that has actually voted and has actually sent delegates to go to the national convention this summer. And when you look at New Hampshire, it is the independents that are going to be a big, big variable here for her. For a good night, she's going to need to have the high turnout of those undeclared voters in a state in which the largest percentage ever was back in 2001 when John McCain was running, and 42% of the Republican primary elected were independent voters. She's going to need that, if not more, to really be able to close the gap against Donald Trump here in the state of New Hampshire tomorrow night.
Vaughn, I'm going to ask you to stand by for a second. Mark, let me bring you into the conversation here. Talk us through, and we showed it on screen there, what a good night looks like for Nikki Haley, what a less good night may look like for her here tomorrow. With Ron DeSantis dropping out, we are already seeing some numbers now from some of the Suffolk polling that's just out today on where his voters tend to go. I will tell you anecdotally from what I hear in this state and what I've heard, on the campaign trail now over the course of the last couple of weeks, there is a sense that perhaps people would get behind Ron DeSantis. I'm talking about Trump loyalists. Like in the next election, maybe DeSantis himself has his eye on 2028 here. He himself has even brought that specter up on the campaign trail. But give us a sense of how you see it and how the numbers shake out.
Yeah, Hallie, let me break down the numbers. You mentioned that Boston Globe, Suffolk University poll that ended up coming out showing Donald Trump with a 19-point lead over Nikki Haley. That poll today ended up accounting basically for the DeSantis now being out of the race. And it's exactly the same 19-point lead that we saw the day before with DeSantis in the contest. So not a whole lot of change. There have been some other polling and some other numbers showing that kind of about 2-to-1 margin DeSantis voters going for Donald Trump as their second choice over Nikki Haley, and that's backed up also in some national polls. So the situation for Nikki Haley, kind of best case, this doesn't change the game at all much of Ron DeSantis getting out of the contest. Worst case, however, it could potentially end up increasing Donald Trump's lead, and we're going to have to see how that plays out tomorrow night.
Mark Murray, thank you so much. Vaughn, I want to go back to you, but let me just, I am here with my closest friends in New Hampshire. It is a tight squeeze here back behind where folks are. We expect Nikki Haley to be on the stage in just a couple of minutes, but you know who else is going to be on stage tonight? Former President Trump, later on where you are, and his campaign seems to be touting a kind of show of force, right? Because he's going to be joined by several former rivals in this primary process.
Right. Number one, Hallie, I'm impressed that you're broadcasting from the Nikki Haley-packed rally there right now. Here, Donald Trump is not set to take the stage until 9 p.m. Eastern, a couple hours from now. But this is going to be big because he has on stage with him several former Republican presidential rivals, Vivek Ramaswamy, Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, who all dropped out of the race and over the last week have endorsed him. Of course, Ron DeSantis just yesterday endorsing him here as well. Donald Trump last night in New Hampshire made the case that this is the time for the Republican Party to unify around him. And instead of spending millions of dollars ahead in this Republican races ahead, that they should invest their resources toward Joe Biden in the November general election, Hallie.
Vaughn Hilliard live for us also in New Hampshire. Mark Murray, our thanks to you. Our thanks to our entire team who's out here covering all of this. I will see you later on tonight on Nightly News and then again throughout our special coverage tonight on NBC News Now. And of course, tomorrow, join me, my friends and colleagues, Tom Yamas, Kristen Welker, for what promises to be a jam-packed night because, hey, voters are voting, Aaron, and we're glad to be out where that is happening. Back to you.
So much happening where you're at right now, Hallie. Thank you. Tonight, a new storm system moving east brings freezing rain and ice to millions. It follows this deadly streak of winter weather, leaving 75 people dead. You're looking live at Houston right now. Gray skies as Texas up to the Midwest feeling the storm right now. Snow and ice piling on roads, making it really dangerous. Just look at this fire truck in Missouri sliding and spinning out of control down a street. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Then in Tennessee, the fire department pulled up a truck stuck on the edge of a 200-foot cliff. Wow, look at that. The driver ran off the road and couldn't take his foot off the brake without the car sliding further down. He's safe now. And out west, heavy rain drenching southern California creates some serious flooding. This is a major highway in San Diego covered in water. And there's some good news at the end of this weather tunnel. Warmer weather is on the way. Today is really the last day of this Arctic blast. Then temperatures go in the opposite direction, soaring above average. So let's bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, let's start right there. Just last week, we were talking about temps well below average, and now we're seeing just the opposite. How warm are we talking about?
Yeah, this is a roller coaster. I mean, this is some people pulling out, putting the jacket away and pulling out the short sleeve shirt in some cases. So this is the temperatures right now. And compared to 24 hours ago at this exact time, many areas along the Gulf Coast are about 20 to 25 degrees warmer. We're about 10 to 15 degrees warmer from Chicago to Omaha. Same with Cleveland. New York's about 7 and Raleigh 10. So we warmed it up to kind of back to normal where we should be for this time of year. But as we go through tomorrow, then we're even warmer in some cases. 46 tomorrow, St. Louis. Roanoke, 53. Wilmington, 63. So a lot of areas that do have a coating of ice and snow on the ground, it's going to quickly be melting over the next couple days. And if it doesn't by about Wednesday, it definitely will by the end of the week. Notice 62 degrees on Wednesday, 66 in Raleigh. And by the end of the week into the weekend, this is an extended January thaw. Raleigh in the 70s Thursday and Friday. New York in the mid-50s. You get the idea, Aaron. It's going to feel more like March than the end of January.
Yeah, we've been so concerned about those icy roads. Are the roads still a concern going forward?
Most areas are clearing out, but you always have that battleground where we have the warm air heading over the cold air that's at the surface, and this is the area of concern. This area in white here, which goes all the way into central New York and back into the Midwest, includes about 50 million people. This is where we'll have a lot of school, maybe delays, possible a couple cancellations here or there, because the temperatures are borderline. And as we go throughout tomorrow, the blue shows you where the snow is. There'll be a little ice, too, here through Michigan. Notice that snow comes back through central New York and even into areas of southern New Hampshire. It will snow in many areas in New Hampshire as we go throughout late tomorrow night. Really shouldn't affect voting much. It looks like less than an inch in almost all areas. And then on Wednesday, a big surge of warm air will turn all of that into rain. What's on the ground will be melting. We're not really concerned about flooding concerns either with this storm. So as far as ice goes, this is the map that's the key. This is the areas in the pink and then the purple that have a chance of getting at least a glaze of ice out there. The thickest should be southern Michigan from Chicago, northern portions of Indiana, including Fort Wayne, over here towards Toledo, Ohio, and then possibly late tomorrow night into areas of Pennsylvania. So not a big snowstorm, but just enough ice to cause problems, especially when we talk about tomorrow evening, people going home from work and school.
Yeah, and Bill, we're just learning now 81 people are dead from these storms.
Yeah, this has been a pretty harsh 4 weeks that we've had across the country. We had a couple big snowstorms and then 2 big cold blasts. It looks like the really life-threatening portion of this winter, that we've had is about over with. Now the question is, when will winter return? And there's no timeline on that. I mean, it looks like pretty much the next week or two is going to be pretty warm.
Oh, Bill, thanks so much. Well, we're just learning Israel is proposing a 2-month pause in fighting inside Gaza in exchange for all the more than 100+ hostages still in Gaza to get out. That's according to an Israeli government official. Whether or not Hamas will agree isn't clear yet because we're also hearing these negotiations are still at an impasse over Hamas's demand for a permanent ceasefire. It's according to a diplomat with knowledge of the talks. Now, and it comes as we're seeing this stunning video of families of some of those hostages storming the Israeli parliament, demanding the government do more to get their loved ones out more than 3 months into this war. So let's bring in Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Now, Matt, this is anything but a done deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, what we're hearing now, it sounds as though Hamas might be rejecting this already, even as reports of this just came out. And this was first reported by Axios. And, these negotiations have been going on within the Israeli government for about 10 days. And it looks like they had finally approved this plan actually quite a while ago, days ago. This, according to Axios, but it doesn't seem as though Hamas is going to accept this. Just as you said, Hamas's longest-standing demand ever since that last ceasefire that released some 100 hostages has been for a permanent ceasefire. This does not include that. And in fact, the terms, as mentioned by Axios and our own reporting, shows that Israel is determined to continue fighting even after this proposed deal, if it's accepted, would go through. So this is something that, it seems like it could be kind of dead in the water already. But it does show a certain amount of political will on behalf of the Israelis to present such an ambitious peace deal. This is something that would be the longest sort of relative peace that Gaza has seen ever since October 7th. So if it does go through, the fact that it was even mentioned is important because it shows that a little bit of a step toward breaking that impasse that you just described. Aaron.
Yeah, let's talk about that. A former Israeli negotiator once told me that anytime there are these kinds of leaks to the press, that it's one side trying to send a signal. So what signal are the Israelis sending right now?
That's not clear. I mean, I spoke with the Israeli official government spokesperson. He said they don't have a comment on this, and this is something that this was leaked. So this isn't information that it sounds like the Israeli government really wants to be discussing right now. So if this is a signal, I think it might be the signal that I just described, that the Israeli.
All right, we seem to have lost Matt Bradley, but Matt, thank you for that reporting. Some breaking news just into us. The United States and British militaries are hitting the Houthis with even more strikes in Yemen, according to defense officials. And of course, in response to the dozens of the attacks the rebel group is launching on ships in the Red Sea since November, we're also learning President Biden and UK Prime Minister Sunak talked on the phone in just the last couple of hours about those ongoing attacks. Let's go right to Courtney Cuby, who's following all of this for us from the Pentagon. Courtney, what more do we know about these new strikes?
We don't know a whole lot because they literally just happened, Aaron. So, I mean, the aircraft just completed their mission only moments ago. Now, what's key here to remember is this was a bilateral, so U.S. and British military in a series of pre-planned strikes. So this is similar to what we saw back on January 11th when the U.S. military and the British military launched a whole series of strikes against more than 60 targets in Yemen, Houthi targets, by air, by sea. It was a combination of manned airstrikes and missiles that were fired from military ships off the coast of Yemen. Now, in that case, they lobbed more than 150 precision-guided missiles and bombs at Houthi targets. We do expect this to be slightly scaled back from that, but we're still waiting for some final numbers here, including how many targets they went after. But we do expect similar types of targets to what we saw then. So anti-ship ballistic missile sites, things that would potentially be used to target commercial and military ships in the Red Sea. And the real goal of these strikes is twofold. Number one, to try to degrade the Houthis' military capabilities so they simply cannot carry out the amount of strikes that we've seen over the last couple of months from them, but also to try to deter them from continuing this campaign of threatening and at times attacking ships in the Red Sea. Aaron, it's having a real impact on the global economy with a number of major shipping companies rerouting their ships all the way around southern Africa. That adds time, it adds money to consumers, and there is a serious threat from these Houthi missiles and one-way attack drones that we've seen them launching off over the last several weeks, Aaron.
And Courtney, there are some real questions about the effectiveness of these strikes. And of course, this comes as we're also learning more about the 2 Navy SEALs confirmed dead after they went overboard as part of a search mission for Iranian missiles bound for the Houthis. Now, walk us through that.
Yeah, it's a really tragic story. So it was on January 11th, actually the same day of the first major strikes between the U.S. and the British military on the Houthi rebels. These Navy SEALs who we see here on screen, they were part of a small SEAL team that was about to board a small dhow. That's a ship that was believed to be carrying illicit weapons from Iran to the Houthi rebels. Now, it was nighttime. The seas were pretty rough at the time. One of those SEALs fell in. The other one jumped in to save his buddy. They were missing for about 10 days before, over the weekend, the U.S. military officially declaring them deceased. Just today, we learned their names, a little bit more about them. They were both West Coast-based SEALs, part of the Naval Special Warfare Group 1. Really tragic story. It's now moved from a rescue mission to a recovery with the still continued hope that they'll be able to recover these 2 missing sailors, now declared deceased. But it all does tie back to what we were talking about earlier, and in that this was the first interdiction by the U.S. military of, in this case, it was missile parts, components for missiles that the Houthis have been using to target these ships in the Red Sea. The U.S. military grabbing one of these boats. They took the crew into detention. They confiscated the weapons on board. They sunk that dhow, that small boat. But sadly, these 2 Navy SEALs were lost in the process, Aaron.
Oh, tragic. Courtney, thank you. Now to Georgia, where a judge is unsealing the divorce file involving one of the special prosecutors investigating former President Trump for election interference. We broke down why this is such a huge deal last week, and that's because the district attorney in Fulton County, Willis, is accused of having an inappropriate romantic relationship with that prosecutor, Nathan Wade. One of Mr. Trump's co-defendants, Michael Roman, accuses Wade of using some money he got from the DA's office to go on trips. We should note, so far, there's no direct evidence of wrongdoing here. But in court, a lawyer for Jocelyn Wade accused Willis of being, quote, the alleged paramour of her client's husband, and says her job as DA shouldn't matter.
She's trying to hide under the shield of her position improperly, I would suggest, Your Honor.
Well, Blaine Alexander is in Marietta, Georgia. She joins me now. Willis won't have to be deposed in this divorce case for now, but did we learn anything from this file that was unsealed today?
Well, Aaron, as it relates to what we've been talking about, no. The short answer is no. There really wasn't anything that was exposed today that provided any evidence to back up these allegations against Willis and Nathan Wade. But I do need to remind you that this is a 2+ year or so divorce divorce case. So there were certainly a lot of things in there that didn't have anything to do with what we're talking about here. The other point, though, you talked about the fact that Willis doesn't have to be deposed tomorrow. That's true. That was a small victory for her. The deposition was initially set for tomorrow, and that's what the subpoena reflected. The judge ordered that doesn't have to happen, but he didn't knock it down altogether. He simply said he doesn't have enough information to decide whether or not she needs to testify. He says instead he wants to wait and hear from Nathan Wade, who's going to have to testify in a later hearing in about a week or so to decide whether or not that provides enough information or whether Fani Willis is going to have to come in herself. Aaron.
Okay, and Blaine, you caught up with Jocelyn Wade's lawyer after the hearing. What is she saying?
Yeah, she was very careful about what she did and didn't say, didn't answer necessarily a lot of our questions, but I did ask her specifically what response she had to Fani Willis's motion last week, basically trying to quash the subpoena, saying that it was nothing but an attempt to harass her and embarrass her because of her position. Here's how she responded to that. Take a look.
It wouldn't matter who she is and what position she holds. If she's having an affair with my client's husband and he's spending my client's money on that relationship, I'm going to find out about it. And it has nothing to do, in my view, with her being the district attorney of Fulton County.
Now, I do need to underscore all of this by saying that Nathan Wade hasn't responded to this, isn't commenting on this. Fani Willis has not directly responded to these allegations either. When I've spoken with her office multiple times, they say that she does plan to respond in a written court filing. As those initial allegations were made in a court filing, they plan to respond in kind, and the judge has set a deadline of February 2nd to do so. Aaron.
Blaine Alexander, thank you for that reporting. Coming up, an urgent search tonight in China after a massive landslide killed at least 9 and trapped dozens of people. What officials say is making rescue efforts a lot more difficult. Plus, the big ruling from the Supreme Court over that razor wire at the U.S.-Mexico border. More bad news for Boeing as the FAA recommends inspections on one of its plane models similar to the one where the door plug blew out in midair earlier this month. This model, called the 737-900ER, is older than the 737 MAX 9, which had the blowout incident. But the FAA says the two have the same door plug design. And it's important to note, FAA isn't saying these planes need to be grounded, rather just telling airlines to take an extra look to make sure the door is properly secured as an added layer of safety. Now, Boeing, in a statement, says, quote, "We fully support the FAA and our customers in this action." For more, let's bring in Liz Kreutz. Liz, these planes have been in service far longer than the MAX 9, so you'd think if this was an issue, they would have already found out about it.
Aaron, yeah, you would think, and it really does seem like, as you mentioned, that the FAA is really doing this out of an abundance of caution because of the fact that these planes have the same design when it comes to the door plug on these planes. And so right now, there's been no known issues. We do know from a source familiar with the matter that there are 380 of these specific planes in service worldwide. They're used by Alaska and United and Delta here domestically. They've had 11 million hours of operation globally and 3.9 million flight cycles. So clearly the FAA trying to point out that these are well-used planes that have never had any issues. United, Delta, and Alaska Airlines all released statements in response to this. They all said that they had already begun inspections of these planes, that those are already underway. There's been no issues found so far, and they're going to be able to continue these inspections, thankfully for travelers, without any disruption to their operations. Aaron.
Okay, so while these extra inspections won't affect operations for now, the grounding of MAX 9s is there any timeline on when those might get back in the air?
Yeah, unfortunately, as of right now, we do not have a timeline. The last update from the FAA a few days ago essentially said that these inspections are still underway. Boeing has said there's no clear timeline right now. They have 171 of them that were grounded. It has been impacting between 110 to 150 flights a day for just Alaska Airlines. Boeing said 40 of these planes have been inspected so far as of a few days ago. No issues found there. But again, many more inspections to go. No clear timeline. But the FAA has said that the agency plans to very closely monitor these planes once they do get back into service. Aaron.
We'll have to see what comes of that investigation. Liz, thanks so much. Well, let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about right now. Number 1, Dexter Scott King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s younger son, has died at the age of 62. His family says he had prostate cancer. He was the president of King's estate and chairman of the King Center, working to protect his family's legacy. His brother called his death devastating. Number 2, jury selection starting today in the trial of 2 men accused of murdering musician and DJ Jam Master Jay from the hip-hop group Run DMC. His death was kind of a mystery for decades. Now federal prosecutors say they know what happened, accusing the 2 men of entering Jay's New York City studio back in 2002 to get cocaine and then murdering him. Number 3, the Supreme Court's allowing Border Patrol agents to remove razor wire at the U.S.-Mexico border. The vote was super tight, 5-4. Texas installed the wire to block illegal border crossings, but the Biden administration said it's preventing agents from doing their jobs. And number 4, around 30,000 California state university staff went on strike today for higher pay. Cal State's the largest public university system in the country and has 23 campuses. The new semester is starting today, but many classes could get canceled, and the strike's supposed to last all week. The union says Cal State has the money, while university officials say the salary demands are not feasible. And number 5, 20-year-old amateur golfer Nick Dunlap just became a PGA Tour champion, but can't get the prize money, more than $1.5 million, because of his amateur status. Instead, the PGA Tour says the runner-up will get that money. Dunlap's the youngest amateur to win since 1910. Well, we're hearing from the Big Ten today after that scary scene out of Ohio where the top college basketball player in the country basically gets run over by a fan running onto the court. You can see right here, just seconds after Ohio State's surprising upset over number 2 Iowa, a fan crashes into Caitlin Clark. She falls to the ground after that with members of her team all surrounding her. Clark's the best player in Division I college hoops, averaging nearly 32 points a game. Fortunately, she says she's all right, saying she was blindsided and it was kind of scary, adding, though, she has no problem with fans rushing the court, but it's raising new questions about why it's even allowed to happen. And on that note, Maura Barrett joins me now. So, Maura, there's been a lot of reaction to this. Walk me through it.
Well, Caitlin Clark's obviously their star player over at Iowa. It's a big deal, sweeping the nation. And so when you see a video like that, obviously it doesn't look like the fan was intentional when she ran at her, but you saw how many people were swarming the court there. There's bound to be some confusion, but when a star player like that is at risk, or any player for that matter, the coaches get concerned. And so Iowa State's coach, Lisa Bluter, wrote or said yesterday, it's unfortunate the game ended that way and that Caitlin got taken out on the floor. She got some inappropriate words yelled at her by fans, by students. That should just not happen. Our players should be safe. They should be able to walk off the floor. That's very disappointing. Now, it's also important to note there were about 18,000 people in the stands during this game. That's a record for that arena. And so the possibility for danger surrounding that is even more surmountable there. So the Ohio State coach kind of echoed what we heard from Iowa. And he said that Clark had such a spectacular performance. She's such a great player. That should never happen. So I feel really badly about it. And hopefully it doesn't affect her moving forward. But that's extremely unfortunate. And so when you have coaches concerned, obviously anybody that watched the video, it's very jarring to see. So even if Caitlin Clark is saying, hey, I'm fine, I think the fans should be able to do this, there's obviously this element for a hole when it comes to safety.
And we're hearing from the Big Ten about how they plan to address court storming.
Right, so this is something that we see a lot in sports. Fans get excited, they storm the court, they want to celebrate with their team. It's a very, high energy situation, and so we reached out to the Big Ten to kind of see how they're planning on tackling this. And they wrote back to us and they said that if adequate security is not provided, because they have a plan put in place where the home team needs to provide security for the teams. There's a process in place that begins with a private reprimand for the first offense, public reprimand for second offense, and the discretion to implement a fine plus additional penalties for a third offense. And so the Big Ten is kind of laying out those ground rules here, but we also looked into what the SEC does, another college conference, and they actually put monetary fines on it. They said for the first offense, it's $100,000, and then they ramp up from there for $250,000 and then $500,000 for a third offense.
And who are they fining?
The team that's supposed to be providing the security.
Okay.
And so these teams have to abide by the rules of making sure that the teams are safe. And the SEC actually goes a step further by saying, hey, you need to have a secure zone, so a rope protecting the teams from potential fans, getting in an altercation like that. And they also even recommend that teams bypass that typical post-game handshake saying, hey, thank you, because they really want the teams to get back to the locker rooms as quickly as possible so they avoid a collision like we saw there.
We'll have to see if any other policies change after this incident. Maura Barrett, thank you. When we come back, we've got more from New Hampshire, including why such a small state is such a big deal for the candidates. Next in tonight's breakdown, plus the global milestone happening now in Cameroon. Let's get back to New Hampshire, where in just about 24 hours, polls will close on what could be the beginning of the end of the Republican primary. But why is a state that's in the bottom 10 in population so important to picking the president? Hallie joins me now from Salem, New Hampshire. Hallie?
It's great to see you, especially out here on the campaign trail from New Hampshire. You can tell it is very loud. It is very crowded. We're at one of Nikki Haley's final events before voting begins tomorrow at this first-in-the-nation primary contest. That's what they call it, because unlike Iowa, it is not a caucus. People are actually voting. It's a little bit more of a traditional process like we'd expect to see. Earlier today, we were out at an event with Donald Trump Jr., of course, the son of the other candidate in this race, as he was making the pitch, making the closing argument as to why people in New Hampshire should come out, turn out, and vote for his dad. We've talked about the politics in this show already. We're going to talk about the politics again coming up in just a little bit. But what about the process? What does this actually look like? How does it work? Well, we've got you covered in the breakdown. Check it out.
We had the big day.
For New Hampshire, a proud presidential primary tradition.
First in the nation.
First in the nation.
First in the nation.
First in the nation. First in the nation.
The state's voted first for more than a century now. So committed, they literally made it law that their primary be at least 7 days before anyone else's. It's a different animal than Iowa with its caucus system. New Hampshire is more like the voting you're used to, with polls opening early and voters lining up all day. It's a preview of what November will look like. The state has 22 delegates up for grabs out of a possible 2,400 across the country. Other states have a lot more. So why is New Hampshire such a big deal for the candidates?
New Hampshire historically has been that state that introduces candidates to the rest of the nation. New Hampshire voters will say, hey, look at this person. Take a look and see for yourself.
Experts point out it's all about momentum. A win here can propel a candidate in states to come, like the ones that vote on Super Tuesday. Just look at the historical record. Of the 4 Republicans who've won the presidency in the last 50 years, 3 won New Hampshire. One of them, Donald Trump, who lost Iowa in 2016, but won here in this state, catapulting him to the eventual nomination. Polls now show him ahead of his nearest rival, Nikki Haley, by double digits in most cases, but it appears to be his weakest early state. Haley hoping she can use that to her advantage in a state she's invested her time and money in. She's logged nearly 3 times as many days visiting New Hampshire as Mr. Trump. Unlike Iowa, New Hampshire has fewer evangelicals, more moderates, more suburban and young voters.
On paper, Nikki Haley should be very appealing to those particular voters. But if she's not, like if in bedroom, suburban communities with lots of commuters here in the southern tier of New Hampshire, if Trump is winning those towns, it's going to be a very big night for him.
And then there are the independents, also called undeclared voters, who outnumber both Democrats and Republicans here. They're allowed to vote in either the Democratic or Republican primary. And at the moment, polling shows they favor Haley over Mr. Trump.
So, Aaron, that is a little bit of an explanation as to what will happen, not tonight, of course, but tomorrow night when I will see you probably live from a polling location. The polls will be open all day tomorrow in and around, obviously in New Hampshire. They actually even open up starting at midnight tonight. One tiny little town called Dixville Notch that goes right at the stroke of midnight. So we'll have a handful of vote in, and I do mean a literal handful at that point. As for the Democrats, if you're wondering, and again, we're out covering the Republicans because that is where the competitive primary race is right now. As for Democrats, keep in mind that because the Democratic National Committee and the Democrats moved around which states vote early, which states go first, New Hampshire was not in that mix, so delegates essentially don't get named to the National Convention over the summer. That said, you are seeing still a write-in campaign for President Biden. You've seen Dean Phillips, for example, Marianne Williamson out here as well. So lots to cover here in what they call the Granite State, Aaron, where we will be, of course, all night. Aaron, back to you.
Hallie Jackson, thank you. Well, the Biden administration today announcing new steps to help Americans get contraceptive and abortion access under an emergency care law, including expanded coverage of FDA-approved contraceptives at no cost under the Affordable Care Act for millions of women nationwide and access to emergency abortions. It comes on the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade, with the administration sharpening its message on abortion ahead of the election. And Vice President Harris in Wisconsin today launching a national tour focused on protecting access to reproductive care. The Biden campaign says it will put reproductive freedom front and center over the next 10 months, tying abortion bans to former President Trump's ownership of the fall of Roe. Yamiche Alcindor is joining us now. So, Yamiche, you're in Wisconsin, a key battleground state where Vice President Harris kicked off this national tour on reproductive care. What did she say, and how is this issue resonating with people there?
Well, Vice President Kamala Harris came to Waukesha County, Wisconsin. This is a deeply red county that was won by former President Trump twice in 2016 and in 2020. It was here that she talked about the need for women to have abortion access. She said it's a more dangerous world and that women's health are really being put at risk. She also went after former President Trump. Take a listen to what she said.
The former president handpicked 3 Supreme Court justices because he intended for them to overturn Roe. He intended for them to take your freedoms. And it is a decision he brags about.
The vice president also talked about specific women's stories, talking about women who had problems accessing abortion care when they desperately needed it. I talked to a woman named Heather who said she had an abortion in 2017. She said she wanted that baby, but that the baby had a fatal defect that would not have been consistent with life. Take a listen to what she told me.
I'd like lawmakers to know that every situation is nuanced, and you cannot, this is not a black and white situation or black and white issue. we can't make just sweeping laws.
So the vice president is hoping that that message will help her as well as the president win voters in a county like this, which again is deeply red. Aaron?
Now, abortion was a major issue in the 2022 midterms. Are Democrats overall banking on this issue for the 2024 election?
Democrats are definitely making abortion a top issue as they try to galvanize and mobilize voters. And we've also seen abortion on the ballot in at least 7 states. And each time, opponents of taking away rights from abortion, which means people that are in favor of having abortion access, they have won each time. So Democrats are hoping that they can build on that momentum. Also, in Virginia tomorrow, you're going to have the president, Vice President Harris, as well as their spouses headlining a campaign rally focused on talking about abortion rights and the need for that. So that really is showing you that the Biden-Harris campaign is focusing on abortion, and also that Democrats across the nation are making this a key issue. Aaron?
Yamiche Alcindor, thank you for that reporting. Well, NBC covers hundreds of international stories each day. And because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to them all, our international teams have done it for you. Here are some of the things they're keeping an eye on in a segment we call The Global. In China, state media reports a landslide buried dozens of people in a remote village. At least 9 people are dead. Rescue efforts are underway, but are difficult because of freezing temperatures. It's not clear yet what triggered the landslide. And in Cameroon, officials starting the world's first malaria vaccination program for children today. The vaccine, nearly 40 years in the making, is a huge step forward in the fight against the disease. It kills hundreds of thousands of people in Africa each year. Cameroon is the first of 20 countries planning to roll out the vaccination effort in the coming months. And in Mexico, Benito the giraffe started his 40-hour road trip today to a new home in Wildlife Conservation Park in central Mexico. He's moving out of an urban park in Juarez near the U.S. border, where activists allege he was held in poor conditions alone in a small cage. When he arrives at his new home, he's going to have a lot more space, as well as 7 other giraffes to be friends with. So a happy ending there for Benito. When we come back, a rare election redo in Connecticut, why a voting fraud scandal in one city is getting national attention. A voting scandal in one New England city getting nationwide attention tonight. We're talking about the race for mayor in Bridgeport, Connecticut, a city of like 150,000 people. Take a look at this video, allegedly showing people stuffing ballot drop boxes ahead of the Democratic primary back in September. A judge decided there was enough evidence to order a do-over of this race even after the general election in November. The man who won that race has been mayor on and off for decades and has a controversial history in this city. Joe Ganim served 5 terms as mayor before being convicted of corruption charges. He went to federal prison for 7 years and has been elected twice more since being released. The primary for what could be his 8th term is tomorrow. This contest's gotten the attention of former President Donald Trump, who, of course, falsely claimed there was widespread election fraud of which there is no evidence. He posted that it's a tiny part of what's happening in our country. Now, Jane Tim joins me now. Jane, I have so many questions. Election fraud is rare and not like a widespread issue. What are the candidates saying about all of this?
You know, for every rule, there is an exception, and Bridgeport, Connecticut appears to maybe be that exception, where you are seeing evidence of sort of significant fraud that was enough that a judge said that we have to redo a primary election. And if this primary is redone and the outcome changes, you will actually have to redo a general election after that. Now, the candidates, Joe Ganim has also accused his rival of fraud. There's a lot of hate going back and forth. But what we understand from court testimony and interviews with reporters is that there are people that went in and out of low-income housing, encouraged people to apply for absentee ballots, and then helped them return it. Connecticut has very strict rules on who can help somebody vote absentee by mail. And that's where, while these may not be illegal voters, their ballots may have been cast in violation of the law. So that's why we've ended up with this redo. Voter fraud allegations have dogged Bridgeport, Connecticut for years. So this is something voters, I think, are pretty fed up with. Let's take a listen to something that our Connecticut colleagues' conversations with voters.
I think it's a necessity, and, you know, we need to find out who the real winner is in Bridgeport.
I think things need to be changed because the city's out of character right now.
Now, we'll find out tomorrow whether or not this race, which was decided by hundreds of votes, hundreds of absentee ballots, will be decided in the same way, or if we go to a general election redo after this primary election redo.
And let's talk potential penalties. Are there any for anyone involved in the alleged ballot stuffing?
You know, this is a state, or currently is a state investigation going on. And once the results of that are had, it can be referred to the Attorney General's office. There's a 2019 primary with the same Mayor Ganim that has been referred to the Attorney General's office. That investigation is still ongoing. State officials say that this investigation will go quicker. I think there is an enormous amount of pressure on them to get to the bottom of this. But election redos are an incredibly extraordinary recourse. I will say that the election experts point to the fact that this was caught, that, you know what I mean, this kind of fraud, while it does happen in occasional instances, it gets caught because it's too obvious to be missed.
And what are election experts saying about this race and other recent elections that have been redone?
You know, election redos are something I'm watching because it is so extraordinary, Aaron. But you've seen a handful of them in the recent months, and usually it's in the kind of race, like a local race, where the deciding vote is maybe 2 or 3 people have voted. But as more elections are litigated, more people go to court, more people cry fraud, whether it is baseless or founded, you're going to see more calls for this. And whether or not the courts decide that they are merited is really going to help, is going to decide a lot of things based on how people trust our elections and whether or not we have to do this again.
Jane, thank you. That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.